Okay, thank you. Good evening. Tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing is being held by video conference and live stream video on the town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variance and consents held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between town, individuals, or organizations. If a request for deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant or authorized agent must contact the Secretary Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you are watching the live stream of this hearing on oakville.ca and you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, please call 905-815-6095. Again, the number is 905-815-6095. When you call in, staff will ask for your name, item number that you wish to address, and your telephone number. Further instructions will be provided for you to call back to join the video conference. When the chair of the committee polls for interested parties, please press *6 to unmute yourself. The applicant or agent will be given the opportunity to briefly explain to the committee the basis of their application, answer any questions that may arise, and a maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for the presentation. You'll need to state your full name and address for the record. Any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must also state their full name and address for the record. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for each presentation. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chair. Any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will then be provided a further 5 minutes to respond to comments made by interested parties, answer any questions from the committee members, and if the applicant or agent has any concerns found in staff report, particularly with the proposed conditions, this will be the opportunity to advise us. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision, and this will mark the end of all discussions. Any persons desiring a notice of the decision for an application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary Treasurer. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed no later than 10 days for minor variance and 15 days for consent. The applicant, agent, or any other person who has filed a written request for such notice. The last day to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be noted on the decision. Only the applicant, specified persons, or public bodies may appeal the decision of the committee to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In November of 2022, Bill 23 legislation, the More Homes Built Faster Act, amended the Planning Act to remove appeal rights for the members of the public. If no appeal is received within the prescribed timeframe, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding, and the Secretary Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. People participating in the hearing are to be courteous to, respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and any other person participating in the electronic hearing. Tonight's hearing is being video recorded and available for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. We have one regret this evening, and Mr. John Hardcastle. Do you have any declarations of peculiar interest? I see none. We have a deferral for request, application 066 of 2026 at 2279 Whistling Springs Crescent has been deferred. Please note, if you are here for this application, you will be receiving a notification when it does come before the committee. Again, that's application 066 of 2026 at 2279 Whistling Springs Crescent. Madam Secretary Treasurer, anyone else standing in queue or asking a request to defer or withdraw an application?
No, Madam Chair, we have no hands up and no further requests.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to the first item on our agenda this evening, which is application 38 of 2026 at 52 Chartwell Road. Again, that's application 038-2026 at 52 Chartwell Road. I have a request to attend and speak from Anil and Giselle Murdoch, Anna Fargo, Esther Falconer, Matthew Fallahy. And we have letters of opposition from Neil and Giselle Murdoch, Esther Falconer, and Robert Bell. The agent for the application is Mr. Paul Cronus.
One moment, Madam Chair, we're just having trouble moving him into the meeting.
No problem.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Cronus. Go ahead.
There we go. I was starting to get a little bit concerned that technology got the better of me, but I'm glad I'm with you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Paul Cronus. My land use planner at Weirfolds in Toronto, and as you indicate, I'm the agent for the owner of 52 Chartwell Avenue. You may recall this matter was here before you, but in unofficial capacity, as a hearing has to be redone on this matter. But we had preliminary discussion on some of the matters. But I'd like to, with your indulgence, given that there's others that have an interest in the application, I can quickly go through a presentation.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So as you know, 52 Chartwell Avenue is at the northwest corner of Chartwell Road and Carson Lane. If you can flip quickly to page 5. Okay, so we're here before you to effectively seek 4 variances. The first one that I've highlighted in green is a variance that arises out of, well, what we're doing is we're repurposing this building and providing for 2 additional residential units, a use that's permitted in the L3 zone, the RL3 zone, but we have a -0 suffix. So the first variance deals with the existing garage, which faces Carson Lane. We are putting a dividing wall in between them to separate the garage spaces for each of the ARUs, and that effectively gives rise to the 2 variances. There's no change to the appearance other than the internal partition. Variance 2 and 3, which I've highlighted in red, are existing situations that we're trying to address through these variances. And variance number 4 is a new variance to deal with height. If you can flip, please. As I mentioned, the property is designated urban residential zone RL3. And I'd like to, if with your indulgence, I think variance number 1 is fairly easy to understand. It's not changing the exterior of the building. There'd be no change from the appearance on the street other than the fact there'll be 2 separately contained private garages. In respect of the variance number 3, and I'll deal with variance number 2 after 3. In respect of variance number 3, the existing driveway on Carson Lane, which predates the requirements of the current zoning bylaw, is as-built situation. It was built in accordance with the bylaw that existed prior to the current bylaw, and is set back 8.76 meters from the intersection of the flankage street, whereas 15 is required. There has been absolutely 0 conflicts over the years with this arrangement. So in our respectful submission, to continue with that variance doesn't undermine the public health and safety situation. In respect of variance number 2, this is a bit complicated. As you know, we've been before your committee previously on a consent application and minor variance. We dealt with the minor variance to recognize Chartwell Road as the frontage for the purposes of setback. We've been through 4 or 5 preliminary consultation meetings with staff, including 3 rounds related to the current proposal. At no time did anyone bring to our attention anything to deal with the required combined driveway widths. This came up roughly about a week before the notice for this hearing had to go out. There is a provision in the bylaw that says hammerhead driveways are excluded from the driveway calculation. I've had a discussion with staff on it, but we were unable to conclude as to whether it applies or it doesn't, so we sought the variance as directed. If you could please flip to the site plan that you'll find on page 15. And it's noted in the staff report. You see the driveway width, it doesn't come out that clear on that one. Maybe I can ask you to please go to page 36. You'll see there's the bylaw requires the totaling of the combined driveways. There is an existing driveway that has access up Chartwell and one off of Carson Lane. The combined driveway width is as noted in the variance, which is 28.1 meters. Now, this is a little bit punitive because the width of the driveway is measured in totality. So in respect of the Carson Lane, you'll see at the bottom, just above lane, there's a measurement that says 12.13 meters. So it measures the whole thing, including a couple of wings outside of the paved area that's included. Then they consist of about 5.4 meters. So in fact, the driveway portion that you drive up to the garage is 6.76. If you go to the Chartwell Road, it includes those two areas that marked in purple. So that's the parking areas. And again, it includes the whole width, but in fact, the actual paved width is as shown on the plans, and it's roughly about 6.21 meters. So the actual drive paved area is approximately 12.9 meters. And as you know, the bylaw allows for 9 meters. Now, what the staff correctly recommended, and we agree, is on the Chartwell Road that we have interlocked pavement improvements, and that's shown in their staff report, and it's as a condition of approval. And if you flip to page 15, you'll see the kind of treatment the staff are recommending, and we agree to reduce the appearance of the driveway. Now, just for comparison purposes to see how it would visually look, if I may, I can ask you to go to page 49, where I provided I've tried to do my best to provide the existing and proposed situation, and you can see that with the paving of the front landscape, you could hardly recognize a driveway exists. So in our submission, the intent of the bylaw, while it is to reduce the driveway width to 9 meters, this is an existing situation. It's functioned for some years, and it's something that our client inherited when they bought the property. And there's as noted in the staff report, there's other similar treatments, similar driveways in the neighborhood. Now, on the final variance height, which was a matter of some discussion at the last hearing event, Mr. Dickey challenged me to bring forward the technical requirements as to why this variance is required. It's a 1.39 variance. And I hope the committee had the opportunity to review the response to that in a supplemental correspondence that we filed on May 11th, 2016, that basically does a millimeter by millimeter statistical summary and mathematical calculation on why the height variance is triggered. And if I may very briefly, there's 4 elements. There's a deeper roof attic insulation that's required. There's a modern HVAC ventilation distribution system that's required. There's acoustical assemblies that arise out of trying to ensure that each unit has a proper soundproofing. There's ceiling heights that are being increased from the main floor, which is 8 feet to 9 feet, and from 9 feet to 10 feet on the second floor. And I'd like to also say that 75% of the existing roof structure will be maintained. The client is proposing to lift the roof, if you will, to make these improvements in the manner that I just indicated. Now, I'd be more than happy to go through each of the justification, but it's set out on page it's set out starting on page 52. There's and it continues on page 53, where there's 3 components: the main ceiling height, and you'll see the 4th column, it says the delta, why that increase is triggered, roughly 12 inches to go from 9 feet to 10 feet on the main floor. The basement level is not changing, so the grade is not changing. The upper floor ceiling will be increased from 8 to 9 feet. These are all contemporary heights within modern homes. The interfloor acoustic assembly between the main floor and the second floor requires about 200 millimeters, which is roughly about 7, 8 inches for improved insulation. If you go to the next page, It continues with the roof assembly, and the second floor mechanical chase. So the roof assembly for the insulation, mechanical chase to allow for the internalization of the HVAC and other air quality distribution elements. And there's only about a 5-inch number 6 construction tolerance buffer. So that's the mathematical side of the equation that Mr. Dickey and I believe Mr. Tulowski and Mr. Hardcastle were asking me to answer. And I hope this provides you with the technical information you were seeking. But in terms of the planning merits, Madam Chair, members of the committee, as I've indicated in the planning justification report filed, and that's supported by the planning department, the height that's proposed is reasonable in the context of ensuring that the streetscape is maintained. This is a corner lot. Traditionally, corner lots have a little bit more advanced treatment, and we're in an area where immediately across the street on Carson Lane, if you go to page 7, you'll see right across the street, there's a lot that's zoned RL3. It's not subject to the 0 suffix, and that permits a 12-meter height limit. The property to the immediate north has a height limit similar to what's being proposed. And the property to the west on Carson Lane also had a height variance of about 0.5 meter, I think a 0.75 meter. So in the context of what has evolved, in the context of what we're proposed in the mathematical exercise we just went through, we believe the variance is reasonable in those respects. It maintains the streetscape. There's no visual intrusion. There's no shadow impacts. There's no off-site impacts or on-site impacts. The lot is large enough to be able to accommodate the site. The massing is not overpowering. From an urban design, it meets all the objectives. And we feel that the height variance, and we hope the committee agrees, is justified on those bases and it meets the 4 tests. I think that sort of is my overall presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that may arise. And I hope I did my homework to provide you with the technical information that you were seeking. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, any questions, items of clarification of Mr. Cronus before we take questions from the public? Go ahead, Mr. Tulowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Cronus, in your existing and proposed driveway rendering in your submission, the proposed looks significantly larger paved area than the existing, yet I think your submissions and even staff is that they're existing. Can you explain to me why there seems to be such a visual difference between the two plans?
May I ask which diagram you're looking at so I can have the proper reference?
The one you had on the screen, page 3 of your recent submission.
Oh, yes. Okay. I can't speak to that, sir. It's architectural perspective that was provided by the architect. I don't know what software they used, but if you look at the cover page, for example, of the presentation, the very first page, that gives you a different perspective as well. We are not increasing any of the areas. In fact, with the landscape strips, we're decreasing the paved areas. That's the intent that I think Mr. Brandon Hassan has asked us and we endorsed. So there is no change in the driveway. I can't speak to the architectural freedom that an architect used for the expression, but I can assure you we're not changing any of the widths, but we're just improving by adding the landscape strips.
Thank you. With respect to height, so maybe it's just me, but the submissions got me more confused than resolved on the issue. I've looked at the table provided that, again, you had up on the screen.
Yes.
And it's inconsistent with the drawings submitted with the application. In particular, it's referencing the 10-foot and 9-foot ceilings, where the drawings with the submission have 12-foot and 9-foot 10 ceilings. So what is it you're proposing to build in terms of ceiling heights?
exactly what's on the chart, sir. Nothing different. I didn't pick up on that discrepancy. Otherwise, I would have had it corrected. We are not the existing is as shown on the table. I like to go to flip to. I like to flip to the elevation that suggests that's otherwise, and maybe we can start on page 42. Is there any way we can blow that up so we can follow together? So I'm not seeing the numbers. Let me see if I have a larger diagram on that. What the chart did as well, sir, is provide specific reference to the plans that were filed. So we try to reference back to what is shown in the diagram. So I'd be very surprised. Again, I did not pick up on that, and I'm usually good at that. Unfortunately, I can't see. There it is, 9 feet. Second floor is. So we got to go from existing grade. I can't see that number to the left of the arrow there. But we have.
So this drawing is very inconsistent with the table you've just presented. It's got a 12-foot ceiling, a 1-foot difference between finished main floor ceiling, second floor, 9'10" second floor to finished ceiling. The submission you just made and part of the justification for increased height, was going from 8 to 9 feet or 9 to 10 feet, but that's inconsistent with the plan that you submitted with the application. And as you know, any approvals get tied to the plans, and there's a lengthy explanation of why the floor between the first and second floor has to get thicker.
Right. It's the 1 foot.
The separation for both the fire and acoustical performance, but you're showing a 1'2" floor, which is only 254 or 256, I think, and the submission says it needs to be 460. Right. So I'm confused that your justification for an increased height is actually showing a need for less height. But when I add up all the items in the table that are justifying the increased height, it's still under the bylaw 9-meter height. Yet you're saying that it's performance standards that are driving it. So I don't see that. I see inconsistent drawings with statistics you provided and a rationale that doesn't seem to be a requirement other than we want a higher roof and higher ceilings. So can you help me with this inconsistency, please?
There is an element within the existing structure that has a grand room that has a height that's greater than the 8 foot. It's like a 12-foot ceiling. And I'm wondering whether the architect has marked that. I'd like to, if we could go to page 43 to check out those heights as well. And right, they show 12 and 9. I'm wondering if they're a labeling mistake, because these are the chart that I provided is something that I asked the client to produce to give me a millimeter by millimeter analysis, and this is what I received. And if you look at the chart, they cross-reference back to the plans that are filed. You'll see references to the sheet spec 2.1. And they go right back to the plan. So it seems like there might be a labeling exercise on the plans. That would be my conclusion.
So if I add up the numbers, am I going to get to the 10.39 meters?
If you add up the numbers in the chart, that you would get to the 10.39 meters, yes. So the
Well,
the 1.39 meters plus the 9 that's permitted, correct.
okay. Well, when I add up the numbers in the chart, I get 7150, which is less than the 9 meters that's permitted. That's before adding the first floor and the difference between first floor and grade, but that looks like it's about 4 feet. So I'm still under the requirement, yet you're asking for 1.39 meter increase. So I'm I don't understand the.
Yeah. So I don't have a scientific answer for it. There is, you're correct, a discrepancy that shows 12 meters, and we're showing something less than that. But what I wish to express upon you is we spend a lot of time doing the mathematical and statistical analysis, and that's one component. It's a very important component. The other component is to look at it in the context of what is proposed in relationship to what's surrounding it. And this is what I try to do, is there's the planning side as well. Does it fit? Does it make sense? Is it appropriate? Does it undermine and ruin the streetscape? Does it present itself well from an urban design? Is it visually intrusive? Is the massing appropriate? Those are I think when you look at the 4 tests, it directs us to not just stay on the math, but also provide an analysis based on the 4 tests. And I've concluded, and I hope I've persuaded you as well and others that the variance meets the 4 tests. And I can certainly provide more information on the discrepancy. I just don't have it now.
But regardless, your any approval needs to be tied to these plans. And if the plans are inconsistent with what we are approving, that's not going to fly either.
Correct, but we can get you the revised plans that match up. And that's something the committee's done before. Provide us the plans that match up with the 10.39 should the variance be approved.
So, Mr. Cronus, you just said that it should. One of the questions, and I agree, is it visually intrusive? And I'm pretty sure we're going to hear from some neighbors later that suggest it is. This is a corner lot, and there just seems to be no attempt to soften the massing at the corner. Why, the existing house has got varied roof lines, and yet on this house you chose to go absolutely consistent across it. Again, on a corner lot where it's going to be more intrusive than if it were not a corner lot. Can you explain why you didn't try to add some to soften the impact of the variance that you're requesting?
So if you go back to page 49, I believe that this is what I try to do to demonstrate between the existing and proposed. I tried to show that the existing has a couple of large massed areas in the front, and we try to keep one and reduce the other. If we go to page 49, this is the vestibule, the vestibule, the main entry, the foyer, if you will, the main door, page 49. If you can blow that up, that might help us have a better visual at it. So you see, we think the articulation that's provided, the architectural articulation, in combination with the 3 very reduced roof, the turrets or the penetrating roofs in the front, does provide the massing. I think the massing that's existing now with the larger vestibule, in fact, provides more massing on the street. So the architect has, in fact, attempted to soften the facade on the Chartwell side. And if you look and you compare that to the development that was approved on the north, and again I can find reference to that. I believe the planning report had a streetscape diagram in it. That might be worthwhile putting up. It shows what the existing is to the north, and both I concluded independently of staff that the massing is appropriate for this corner lot. And corner lots typically are required to provide more presentation. They can accommodate more mass. So they're more visually prominent in the neighborhood, and they provide a landmark. And I believe from an urban design perspective, it respects all the town's urban design elements in their residential urban design guidelines. So we feel that roof line is appropriate for that built form, and the articulation that continues to exist provides for a massing that is not visually intrusive on the street. And it meets all the setback requirements as well.
I appreciate that, but your submission is the proposed is less visually intrusive than the existing, where the existing at the corner has got a drop roof line, and the proposed is a full 2-story wall.
With the articulation for the way it visually appears along Chartwell. There is no, in my humble opinion, when you're coming southbound on Chartwell, you start experiencing increases in height. You get to 54, and you're already at 10.39 meters, and then you proceed towards this lot, and you don't see any. It would be unusual to have a built form that then drops again. So this is uniform built form, and the massing and the presentation of the articulation continues to provide a feel of comfort. You're not intimidated as you walk on the street, in my view. And then as you're walking northbound from the lake towards the street, then you start feeling the presence of the proposed building at 52. And substantially the same as before, with a little bit more height on the south end. And then as you proceed towards 54, you have the same visualization from the street of the height, and then it starts degrading down as you get towards Lakeshore. And I think from an urban design and a planning perspective, and from the Ford test, that's appropriate.
Okay. One last question for now, just going back to the driveway. I understand that the driveway predated 14014 bylaw. Did it comply with 83-286? Do you know?
I don't know, sir. I don't have that old bylaw. I couldn't find it, but neither could the town find it, or neither could the town confirm it. So what happened was we just agreed to seek the variance. Like I said, there's a provision in the bylaw that exempts these hammerhead driveways from the calculation of driveway, but because neither of us could come up with an interpretation consistent with each other, because we ultimately like to seek a building permit, we applied for the variance. Now, like I said, it's a cumulative variance. It includes the wings. It doesn't. It includes everything that is not landscape. So it is a little bit on the punitive statistical side, but that's how it reads.
So you mentioned the wing. The one wing looks large enough to park a car on. Is that the case?
On which frontage, sir?
On the Carson frontage?
Well, it is 6.74 meters. I guess, yeah, someone could, but it's not a legal parking spot. You can't park there.
So why
it's landscape. It's hardscape.
Right. Why is it necessary then if you can't park there?
Well, the client prefers to have hardscape rather than softscape. That's the way the property was inherited. So he hasn't changed it. There hasn't been any conflicts. There hasn't been any problems. Like I said, we did a minor variance on the frontage in 2023, and no one raised this as an issue as part of something that needed to be corrected during that process. So this caught me and everyone by surprise. It's a new set of eyes and a new interpretation. So we just accepted the fact that we're trying to remedy an existing situation. So and what you see there is what existed when a client bought the property. And that's as much as I have. I did an air photo interpretation through Google Earth as well, tried to see what transpired. That's as much as information I could achieve through that exercise.
Okay, Madam Chair, that's all my questions for now.
Does anyone else have any questions? Mr. Dickey, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm concerned about the height. I appreciate your description and details as to how it all comes about. I see a lot of it, or the main difference between what's we say normally on the street or in houses. You've got added insulation or acoustic soundproofing, and or something else relative to the fact you've got dwelling units between you, which adds additional. You need additional space between the ceiling of the ground floor and the floor of the second floor. What I wanted to get a little explanation is you put in from, I think you said R40 to R60 insulation. Why does that need to increase the height of the roof? I know I put extra insulation in my house, and you don't have to put no, I'm not a builder or contractor, but I think your argument seemed to be that you have to increase it because of over the eaves and the height as the peak of the roof or the slope of the roof comes down, but that doesn't need to be insulated if your soffits or whatever out there. But I don't understand why that needs. Normally, that would just take up more room in the attic. So if you can first address that question for me.
Okay, well, I'm going to defer to the technical memo because just like yourself, I'm not a builder. I'm a planner, and I'm not going to learn how to engineer and build in my late career here. But if you go to the chart, you'll see on page 4, it talks about the roof assembly. And I'll direct the Secretary Treasurer what page that's, page 53. So if you go to 53, you're right. It says we're going from an R40 to an R60. And the technical rationale, and this is all I have that I could say, it says the net zero ready envelope consistent with Bill 60, the energy direction. It requires deeper raised heel truss at the eaves to maintain insulation depth over the top plate without compressing vent baffle. It drives the ridge height as a geometric consequence of the heel, not as a design choice. That's the explanation, the technical rationale that surrounds that 150 millimeter increase, which is roughly about 6 inches. So,
okay.
So the roof will somehow be severed and raised with the crane or what other mechanism, and then reinstalled, keeping 75% of it, and then altering the other 25% to show you the to match what I showed you on the plans. So this builder developer is the one of the first in Oakville, maybe Ontario, that has net zero homes. It has one of the highest carbon capture. It has the first ever Energy Star rating. So he doesn't build homes that we traditionally used to build in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. They're all custom built, and they're built to the highest standards and quality. And it's not until recently that the province has caught on to that and is required, especially in the ARUs, as contained in this correspondence, sir. If you read the correspondence on page I'll give you the reference. If we flip to page 55, oh, sorry, 54. No, I missed it. Yeah, so 54. So each one of these entries corresponds to the chart. So where you see number 4, roof assembly, and then it has a little bit of elaboration. So the proposed assembly is a raised heel engineered truss carrying the R60 It's a net zero ready envelope that Bill 60 energy provisions the municipalities permit without additional procedural friction. The additional height is in the eaves, not to the ridge of the eaves. It reflects a thicker envelope, not a taller roof form. The ridge raises a geometric consequence of the heel, not as an independent design choice. I mean, that's as far as I can go on my technical expertise.
Okay, I still look at this and I see your 0.61 meters of greater height because you have to deal with different matters between the floors relative to the fact you've got one dwelling on top of another dwelling. So that seems that could apply across the board in the future for us. But the other thing I'm concerned about, you seem to put a heavy reliance on the fact that the house to the north, I believe it's number 58, Chartwell, has a height of 10.38, the same as yours. But the house to the north is a smaller. The front elevation, because it's only got 18 feet of frontage, is got to be narrower than the front elevation of your house, which has, for your frontage of your house, you got 25 point something. You're wider, so it's going to appear the house is going to be the mass and scale of the house is going to be larger than the mass and scale of the house to the north, even though their heights are the same. I thought if you were to stick to the height or a height that wasn't so substantially above the zoning bylaws, maybe the mass and scale of the house would not be as huge and much larger than the scale and mass of the house to the north that you use as a reference and a justification for your height variance.
Well, sir, if we flip to page 26, I think what we tried to do is provide here a streetscape rendering that shows that in fact there are very many similarities between the two. The width of the house presents the same on the street. The height presents the same. The articulation is not as much as we're proposing. So I appreciate your opinion, sir, but it doesn't. I don't think reflects what we show on the streetscape rendering here. I think the streetscape rendering shows compatibility between the two build forms. And I don't use 54 Chartwell as any precedent. I mean, we know each application is dealt with on its own merits, but it is part of the urban fabric in this neighborhood. It is something that now presents itself. And the question then is, how does this proposed built form at 52 Chartwell undermine the character of the area when for the most part all the urban design elements, all the official plan components, it doesn't destabilize the neighborhood. It's compatible. It's not the same. It's compatible and it's consistent with the streetscape. So it's got similar features and designs. It's got a comparable height, and like I said, as you approach the corner, traditionally corners warrants a slightly more advanced treatment. I'm not saying height, but we have a treatment that I think respects the corner lot, and it doesn't create a mass where someone feels completely overpowered looking at it from the street. Again, I respect your opinion, but I see our proposal as providing an appropriate integration.
I just looked at Google Maps to see the streetscape, looked at the house to the north, and to me it looks not much. It looks smaller than the house that you're proposing, or the house that you're converting on your property. So I'm concerned about the massing and scale. But okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Thank you for your questions.
Okay. Anyone else before we take comments from the public? All right. Madam Secretary Treasurer, I have several people here that have requested to attend and speak. Can you invite them in one by one?
Yes, certainly. I'm not showing any hands, but I will invite them in case they're new to Zoom and they don't. We're going to start with Anna Fargo.
You want to be muted?
Hi there.
Hi, go ahead.
Thank you. So I live across the street, and as you're seeing on Google search, the streetscape is not as he's describing. And again, Mr. Cronus is paid to do this, so I don't have a presentation prepared. I did for the last meeting, but the house right across the street on Carson is a 1950s cottage. There's going to be people speaking who live in other homes on this street. These are unusually large lots compared to the rest of the street. But what I wanted to talk about mostly was it's going to be less about the specifics and pulling out the different bylaws. But ironically, most of my argument is going to be from the words of the actual owner of the house, who has published a book called The Corner Enclave of 52 Chartwell. And so in this book, my biggest concern, and I think the concern of most of the neighbors, all of these variances, he mentions them in chapter 8 called The Variance War. And he highlights that he needs to get these heights approved. He needs to get the garages approved because this is the fear. He names this as the Trojan horse strategy. And I'm just going to read directly from his book. Phase 1 is the build. We pull permits for single detached homes with 2 additional dwelling units. This is as of right. The neighbors cannot stop it. The municipality cannot stop it. We build the fortress. Phase 2, the occupation. We move in, we rent the units. The cars are parked underground. The street looks quiet. The chaos the neighbors predicted never happens. Phase 3, the strike. Once the building is standing and occupied, then we apply to convert the title to condominiums. Why this works? The city generally opposes converting freehold lands into condominiums because they fear the precedent. But logically, the density already exists. The fire separations exist. The independent living exists. We are simply asking to change the legal title to match the physical reality. So this is the concern. And again, from his book, he's not creating affordable housing. He's listing these rental units in his phase 2 of renting them as listing for anywhere from $11,000 to $25,000. He's projecting this to come to him to learn how to do this with your own property in Oakville. And in his own words, he says when he bought this place, which, by the way, did not have those parking wings, he added them. I was here before those wings were there, and those are new wings that he had added because he knew what was the end goal was. And in his own words, he says, I just want to quote it exactly. He says, when he bought 52 Chartwell years ago, he did his homework. His intention was always clear. Live there, raise the family, and when we become empty nesters, monetize the land by splitting the lots and densifying the asset. So if you're wondering why he's asking for all these unusually small, seemingly small variances, it's to densify this asset for the Trojan horse move that's going to come years in advance, but it's going to set a precedent for our town. And I like that he was able to raise his own family and then leave, but I'm still here raising my family right across the street from what's going to become a condominium development. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Fargo. Go ahead, Mr. Murdoch. You're muted.
I am now. Great. Thank you. I'll echo what Anna said. And in particular, Mr. Kronos said that the driveways were there in particular. They weren't. We've lived on the street 14, 15 years. I also texted the previous owner during this conversation. She confirmed that the current owner put the driveways in. And frankly, that's my biggest worry, in addition to what Anna said, is we don't want the street to be a parking lot. and we can cover it up with the nice grading and the grass coming through. But we're going to have a parking lot on our street, and most of the people on the street do not park on their driveways, and it will meaningfully change the scope of the street. I'm concerned about the height as well, as Member Tilowski noted, but primary point is Anna's on the Trojan horse strategy, and then secondarily, don't want a parking lot on our street. Those wings were added after the current owner bought the house. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that is waiting to speak, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, I'm going to move Esther Falconer into the meeting, and there's also one other person waiting after her.
Where's the line?
Hi. So my name is Esther Faulkner, and I live at 64 Chartwell. And I, again, am concerned about the parking. So I've been in the street for 15 years, and 100% those driveways were paved after I moved in. So they were not existing driveways. The Hammerhead driveways have been there for about 14 years. That's number one. Number two, I am going to also read from his book, and it says on page 76 of his book, the vertical vault, 6-meter high garage. Unit 1 will have a private bay with a triple car stack for 3 cars. Unit 2 will have a private bay with a triple car stacked for 3 cars. And Unit 3 will have exterior parking, which is the parking that you are talking about on the front of the property. Now, I've sat and watched these videos tonight from Mr. Cronus on what he's sent to the city. I ask any one of you to go onto the internet and just search 52 Chartwell Road. And the drawings that appear for rental for 52 Chartwell have no resemblance to the drawings that have been submitted to have these variances. Okay? That's, anybody can go on the internet and check it under Foxy, whatever the name of the company is. The other issue I have is that he says in his book, at 52 Chartwell, we do not build to code. We build to commercial specs. Now, this is a residential property. It is not a commercial venture. This whole corner is going to be nothing but parked cars. If he's saying there's going to be 8 cars allowed to come in and out of this property, which is a corner lot that was for a single family dwelling, and he's converting it to 3 units, supposedly to help with rental units. These are high-end rental units, and he's proposing 8 cars can be parked in the corner of Carson and Chartwell. And I totally oppose this type of parking. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. Anyone else, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, one more, Matthew Fallahay.
Okay.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Fallahay.
Yeah, I'm the owner of 58 Chartwell. First of all, I would like to say my house doesn't look like what they showed on their plan. If you can go to Google Map, you can see it yourself. The front of my house is aligned with all the other house. The back of my house is aligned with the other house. And also regarding the driveway, when I was building this house, I was going to ask for 9.4 meter of driveway. And I was told, don't even think about that. Don't even go there. So I had to go with 9 meter. So how is that fair that I had to go with 9 and somebody else asking for 3 times as much, 28.1 meter of driveway in a residential area? Is this a parking lot area or residential area? Why didn't I get 9.4, but someone else is getting 28? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Any questions of the neighbors from the committee members before I pass it over to Mr. Cronus to answer all their queries? I see none. Okay, Mr. Cronus, the floor is yours to answer all of the concerns of the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those comments. I must confess, I just recently caught up with all the Planning Act changes. I didn't have time to read all the different books that are written by Mr. Giardino. I'm sure at some point I will. But we're here tasked to deal with the 4 tests. Someone has aspirations and ambition. And I think this is the country where we can try to make that happen. But ultimately, we need to deal with the 4 tests, not what someone has written sort of as an idea. Years ago, the thought about having ancillary or additional residential units in the stable urban area anywhere in Ontario, not just Oakville, was anathema. It just couldn't happen. The province stepped in and they said, we're going to make it happen. And in fact, just for a little retrospective history, the town of Oakville staff supported up to 3 additional residential units. Council cut it back to 2 to match that. That's been mandated by the Planning Act. So it's no wonder why Mr. Giardino and others are thinking, how do we deliver the much needed housing units? Not affordable. Affordable has a different connotation, but the way you get affordability manageable for our generation of children is to provide more housing supply. There's a reason why my son lives in Mexico and my daughter is in Calgary, because they can't afford to live in Ontario. And so it's up to us and every developer and every neighborhood to embrace the additional residential units so we can actually give our children a choice for a housing supply. So the book is consistent with that theory. That's just in response to Ms. Anna Farago and Esther Faulkner on the book. Now, the proposal cannot be a condo. I mean, I think Kate Colburn and Brandon Hassan has told us repeatedly that will require a rezoning. And think about it. Go through the condo process for 3 units. It's just not practical. In respect of Mr. Murdoch, and it's good to see you again, Mr. Murdoch. He coached my son in younger years. The driveway, with all due respect, has been existing. I'm not quite sure the information you got, but I just listened to Ms. Faulkner say that she moved in there 14 years ago and the driveway was there, which means about 2012. And my aerial photo, Google interpretation confirmed that. It was there when my client bought it in 2014. This is not a parking lot. This is not going to change what you see on the street. There's going to be a continuation. We meet the parking requirements of the town of Oakville zoning bylaw. You know, obviously, you have to provide parking on the lot, and the additional residential units generate a parking requirement, and we meet all those standards. And this is not a parking lot, contrary to what people are saying. In terms of the commercial specs, what that it was intended to reflect is the client builds to the higher standards, commercial standards, if you will, for residential properties. He doesn't do the minimum. He maximizes out on everything he can in terms to provide an interior space that is most comfortable for anyone who lives there. And that whether they're rentals or whether they continue to occupy for their own space, that's undetermined, and that's not something that the committee or the town can regulate to say the additional residential units must be leased or must be sold. So, but they are available. They become part of the supply. So again, in terms of the height, I have to remind Mr. Falahay that, again, as I've been faulted by saying, I look next door and see the height and we're comparable. I think the same would apply. He received multiple variances many, many years ago, including one for a balcony, which was prohibited at that time, but he was just in the middle of the old bylaw and the new bylaw. So his property has caused undue impact on our clients in terms of overview and privacy loss because of the balcony. But we live together and we grow together, and we understand that this is an inner urban area where we don't have 50-acre farms so we can live on. So we have to respect each other, respect each other's privacy, and the additional residential units provided here, including the height with no balcony, no grade change, and is entirely appropriate. It's endorsed by every level of government, and hopefully it finds merit with your committee.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions, we can take the matter into committee.
I had raised my hand and I got back in. It's Neil Murdoch, sorry. I don't want to break protocol, but can I have a minute?
Go ahead.
I appreciate that. And Paul, good to see you. I wasn't sure if you remembered. That was a fun year.
You in the lanes down in Toronto once in a while as well.
Yeah. But to be clear, your client, the extra driveway did not exist when your client traded for the property. I've asked the previous owner that this evening, and I just want to be clear. And I don't think it's the residents' responsibility to figure out whether or not landscaping meets with zoning approval or not. So I just, and I should have said at the start of my earlier submission, we live at 24 Chartwell. So we walk north every day.
Yeah, I have you,
see the
Mr.
change.
Murdoch, at 24 Chartwell, and regardless of who had the driveway first, it's part of the plans now, and we have to look at the application as it's presented. But we've heard the evidence that everyone has provided, and it's interesting because no matter how far you go back on Google Maps, is that I guess through a proprietary way they've phased out or blackened out the facade of the home, so there's no way of us being able to.
I don't know. Yeah.
To go back. Yeah, I've been trying since you all started speaking. So I didn't know that you can actually do that on Google Maps. But regardless, we're going to take the matter into committee now, and we'll have our discussion and vote on the matter. Thank you all for your submissions, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
one of Ms. Falconer has her hand up.
I know they're all going to go back and forth, and I guess I have to be fair. Go ahead, Ms. Faulkner, but you have a minute.
Okay, and I only need a minute. One of the main things that I wanted to bring up was flooding in that corner, okay? The property 533 Carson has taken their building right to the edge of this property, and it has created a floodplain issue for 58 Chartwell, 64 Chartwell, 72 Chartwell, and 3 houses on Howard. And if you go back to your bylaw enforcement officer, we had 2 major floods in 2025, and they concluded that it was because there was not enough flood drainage put in when 533 Carson was built. Now 533 is there, and it comes directly into 52 Chartwell. So there is also consideration should be given to the floodplain. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
I hear you. Thank you. Mr. Cronus, the property, is it subject to the DSP or any of those building parameters where they will be looking at grading and flooding and all of that?
It's subject to site alteration permits for sure. I'm not sure if it's subject to site plan, but it would be subject to a site alteration permit. But like again, we're not changing the grade. We're only working on the building. So if
Internal.
there's issues with the floodplain, I think Ms. Faulkner did the right thing and contacted the town. This property at 533 is outside our jurisdiction, at least my sphere of review.
Okay, thank you. All right, members, I'm in your hands.
Sorry. There's the photo. It's on from House Sigma. It's from 2025. If you go to House Sigma and look up 52 Chartwell, you can see the original house that has the no driveway. I don't know if you can see it.
I'm not sure what we're looking at, but
oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's very hard to see it because of the glares of the phone.
Oh, sorry.
But thank you.
I don't know if you can see that there, but
yeah,
that's the original photo.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Everyone mute their microphones. We're in session now with the committee members. Who would like to start the ball rolling and have a discussion? Need a minute? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This will probably be long and rambling. I apologize. Madam Chair, I can't support this application. If for no other reason, I am not clear what the applicant's proposing to build. The information presented tonight is inconsistent with the drawings presented, filed with the application. The height justification provided actually reduces the need for an increase in height. But like I say, I do not have clear information in front of me in order to approve this application. Having beyond that, the applicant seems to just want to work within the system to their ultimate advantage, then seek additional relief, but not give anything back, not try to mitigate the impact. I agree with the neighbors. The fact that the driveway's there is not a good enough rationale to, and particularly Carson, the amount of hardscaping, the amount of cars that can be parked there. I don't know, again, neither staff or the applicant have provided information whether those driveways are legal non-conforming or just non-conforming and never complied with the bylaw. But the applicant seeking relief from the bylaw, I believe there's onus on the applicant to try to mitigate the impacts, not just say, well, it's there, so we should keep it. With respect to height, I completely agree with Mr. Cronus. The existing building that steps down treats the corner with more respect. The proposed building is a straight two-story wall. And there's no justification for it. I know need is not a test, but appropriateness is to build 10.39 meters with justification that does not support it and take an existing situation and make it worse is not desirable. It's not appropriate for the development of this property. I understand the system, these 3 units are allowed. The system would allow the applicant to apply for a condominium, and that would be up to the town of Oakville to decide down the road whether they wanted to do that. That's not in front of us here today. But what's in front of us, I cannot conclude that it's desirable. I see the applicant is taking everything the system gets them, asks for more, and not willing to compromise to mitigate the impact. So, Madam Chair, my motion would be to deny the application. this, I assume, will go to the OLT, and the residents would have to go and state their case all over again. But, Madam Chair, that is my motion to deny with the reasons provided.
Thank you, Mr. Talaski. Is there discussion on this recommendation? Okay, I see none. All those in support? All those opposed? Okay, the motion is to deny has passed. None opposed. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We are on application 67 of 2026 at 297 Oak Walk Drive, Unit 104. Again, this is application 067 of 2026 at 297 Oak Walk Drive, Unit 104. I have Karanavir Garial as the agent. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this.
Okay, Mom.
Hello? Go ahead. Do you have your camera on? Who is on right now?
Yes, hi.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Mr. Gurriel.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair and member of the committee. I'm Karanveer Ghadial, and I'm representing the business owner of 104 unit at 297 Oak Walk Drive. Um, the application seeks a minor variance to permit the principal entrance to the unit 4, 104 through vestibule, building common vestibule. Now the zoning bylaw requires that at least one principal building entrance to be directly accessed from the towards the transit facility. In our case, the entrance to the unit is through building main common vestibule, but we believe the intent of the provision 13 we are meeting because entrance to the unit 104 is exactly adjacent to the main vestibule entrance facing the street.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gurriel. Is that your submission?
Yes, we have provided the presentation.
Oh, yeah, go ahead if you want to go through it. I thought you were finished for some reason. I apologize.
No worries. Yes, so this is all explanation. This is the title. If you go on a sheet 3, I believe, which shows the yes, this is the site plan. If you see a red highlighted area, this is the unit 104. Entrance to and adjacent to is a vestibule, which is facing the street. Now, if can you please go on a next sheet? Yes. So if you see the entrance to the unit 104, which opens into vestibule. Now, we are seeking variance that we should be allowed because this entrance is directly opening into the vestibule, which is directly facing the street. And if you go on a next sheet, please, as even a planning department has clarified that this is a minor variance because with the time, the interior layout of the building changed to provide the easy access to the pedestrians to street and transit facilities. So this vestibule acts as a main entrance to the unit. Well, actually, this is all in the we are seeking to have an entrance to the vestibule. There is not much to explain in my case, actually.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Garial? I see none. We do have a letter of objection from Angelo and Vera Mendez. Are they here to speak to the matter, Madam Secretary Treasurer? We have the letter on hand.
I do not see them here.
Okay.
Well, the questions raised by them, actually, they said the ease of access will for the visitors will be reduced, but that is planning department has already confirmed that's not the case will happen because the vestibule is the common entrance which has a direct access to the street, and our unit is accessible through from that vestibule. So, as per our understanding and belief, it will not affect as the question raised by the other unit owner.
Okay. Thank you for your explanation and your submission. Any questions from committee members? Okay, I see none. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price. You're muted.
Sorry. Taking into account my site visit, the reports from staff, the agent, Halton Conservation, and the one letter of opposition, I find the variance to be minor in nature and is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is desirable for the appropriate development of the land. As there are no changes proposed to the building exterior, building envelope, or exit configuration, the variance will permit the principal entrance exit to continue to allow easy and direct access through the existing building vestibule. In conclusion, I believe the four tests of the Planning Act have been met, and I therefore put forth a motion to approve the application subject to the following conditions. That the existing principal entrance be permitted as constructed in general accordance with submitted title page, site plan, and key plan, and floor plan drawings dated February 5th, 2026.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? See none. All those in support? The application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot. Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
night. Application 068 of 2026 at 111 Gloucester Avenue. Again, that's application 068 of 2026 at 111 Gloucester Avenue. I have Jeff Roche here as the agent.
Madam Secretary, it's actually Terry Martino is presenting this
Okay.
file.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Martino.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Terry Martino with Gren Weiss Design Studio in Oakville, and we are the agents for Mr. and Mrs. Salim at 111 Gloucester Avenue. Our application to the committee tonight, thank you very much for this slide, is for 3 minor variances to permit the construction of a single-family dwelling on the subject property. As staff noted in their report, a similar application by a previous owner was heard by the committee on August 8th, 2025, seeking variances. And in staff's opinion, that this new proposal has improved the variances being requested. As you can see from the site plan in the design, we've attempted to align the proposed dwelling with the adjacent house to the north, as well as the adjacent house to the south. The proposal meets or exceeds the setbacks, side yard setbacks, north and south, as well as the rear yard. Conforms to the zoning bylaw in terms of setbacks, as well as height. The design incorporates, as you can see in the plan, a courtyard, interior courtyard, breaking the mass towards the south property line and the dwelling to the south, and you'll see that more evident. If I could have slide 5, please. So this is a streetscape, and you can see that the attempt through the design is that we've aligned to the north side. That would be the left on the drawing, the sort of two-story portion of the house, and then it steps down towards the south and the smaller dwelling to the south of the subject property. We think this is good design in keeping with the streetscape, and there was clearly an attempt to sort of have it fit into the established fabric of the neighborhood. I believe the committee is in receipt of 2 letters from the adjacent neighbors at 117, that's the northern neighbor, and 103 Gloucester, respectively. I had the opportunity to meet with both neighbors on 2 different occasions to discuss the proposal with them and look at ways to ameliorate some of their concerns. The letters reference a revised site plan, and which is what I would like to share with the committee tonight. If I could have slide 2, please. Thank you. So in consultation with the owners, and it started with the owner to the north at 117, the intent is, and through our discussions with the owner, is that we were actually able to rotate the dwelling slightly clockwise, if you could understand that, about the closest point towards the street and the adjacent neighbor at 117. Effectively, what this allowed us to do is open up a greater side yard to the neighbor at 117, as well as while still maintaining the rear yard setback, we were able to push the house back from the street an additional 0.53 meters. So the proposed dwelling under this site plan is actually further set back on the property. Furthermore, there was a landscape plan produced. If I could have slide 3, please. This is a schematic of the landscape plan. So on the left side, there's an incorporation of a solid hedging, and it returns along the rear property line. And as well as the planting to the south, there are some service-bearing trees for the privacy between this residence and the neighbor to the south. If I could get slide 4, please. These are just pictures. So the hedge, it's a beech continuous hedge. They grow quite tall. That one in the picture is probably about 12 feet. That would be all along the north property line. And then you can see the intended plantings on the south side of the service-bearing trees, both in summer and in the fall. If I could go back to the slide 2, please, site plan. So I think in keeping with our conversations and our commitments, my owner's commitment to the neighbors in the north and south, if I could ask the committee's indulgence, we would be prepared to reduce the variance request number 3 to permit a minimum front yard setback. As currently stated, it's 9.82 meters, as shown and indicated on this plan. Permit a minimum front yard setback would be 10.35 meters. If the committee would be interested in making that amendment to variance request number 3. I've read the staff report, and I do concur with their conclusions that they believe that the proposal is minor in nature. It meets the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, as well as represents good development, appropriate development for the lot. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martino. Ms. McPhail, you're okay with this change? We are going down versus going up, so it should not bear any calculation problems. if everything else remains the same?
So I would say that we haven't had a chance to review those plans. Yes, I agree that there are improvements that have been proposed through these changes. I would suggest that one could argue that these changes are still in general accordance with the submitted plan, that as I suggested as a possible condition to an approval. So it would be the will of the committee if you wanted to change the condition and or the variance as it's listed number 3 as requested by the applicant. I'll leave that to the will of the committee.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McPhail. Any questions of Mr. Martino? Items of clarification? Okay, I see none. I appreciate that you took the time to work with the neighbors, Mr. Martino, and made the necessary changes. Let's. Are any of the neighbors here to speak, Madam Secretary Treasurer, or they are satisfied? I guess silence is a key indication.
We do have Mr. Joseph here, one of the neighbors.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, Mr. Martino, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll let the neighbor, that's the neighbor to the north, speak first, and you know, perhaps I can have an opportunity to address anything that he says. So I'll go
Okay,
second.
very well. That's fine. If you do have your camera handy, it's easier if you put it on, then I can actually see you. Go ahead, Mr. Joseph. Bear in mind you are muted and your camera is off. Mr. DiGilio, are you with us? Madam Secretary Treasurer, okay, I see he's unmuted now.
Good evening, Madam Chairman.
Go ahead. Good evening,
Yes,
Mr. Joseph.
good evening. I don't have anything negative to say, but I do have something to say to Terry that my wife and I really appreciate the time that he spent and the concessions that they were able to make. So we're very satisfied.
Thank you for your submission. I appreciate that. We're always happy to hear these conversations between the neighbors are prosperous and fruitful.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Martino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add that I know that I'm in the committee's hands for attempting to amend the variance number 3, but I think it makes a lot of sense, and one of the tests of we could add to the plan, like good neighbors. So in that respect, if my agreement with the neighbor is that's what my owner would intend to do. So I think if it's reflected in the plans, and I think the committee could tie it to the site plan dated May the 12th, which is the date on that drawing that I presented tonight, that would be consistent with our conversation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Martino. Any questions, items of clarification of Mr. Martino before we take the matter into committee? Okay, I see none. I'm amenable to making those changes. I will leave it up to the rest of you in the discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Tawowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As they say, there's an exception to every rule.
Yeah.
We don't like doing this, but it would, in my view, it would be wrong to punish the applicant for doing the right thing and making him go back and with a deferral. I think he's shown willingness to work with the residents and to their satisfaction. He's willing to amend the variance to make it a less of a variance. Staff were supportive of the greater variance. So, Madam Chair, I believe there's no reason in this case to defer this. So, Madam Chair, I would move the application be approved as amended to amend variance number 3, permit a front yard setback of 10.35 meters. With that change, I believe this application meets the test of the Planning Act. I don't see an impact being provided by the variances. The applicant has worked with the neighbors, including the one that had objection. I would note that the objection really did not have anything to do with the variance, but the applicant was willing to work with them on landscaping regardless. Madam Chair, I'd make that approval subject to 2 conditions. As we have not, staff have not seen the drawing, I am going to tie it to the Director of Planning as well. So, Madam Chair, the conditions would be that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted elevation drawings dated March 24th, 2026, and the revised site plan dated May 12th, 2026, as presented to the committee to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning and Development, and that the approval expires within 2 years if the building permit is not issued.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Talowski. Is there discussion on this recommendation? Okay, I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you very much for your help and have a good evening.
Good evening. Okay, application 069 of 2026 at 59 Cudmore Road. Again, this is application 069 of 2026 at 59 Cudmore Road, and I've got Mr. Darren Sanger-Smith as the agent.
Good evening.
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Darren Sanger-Smith, Structured Creations, 445 Elizabeth Street in Burlington. I'm the agent for Jennifer Patterson, owner of 59 Cudmore. The application tonight is for one minor variance. We were in front of the committee back in June of 2025, requesting several variances for a much larger scale project. In this particular case, it involved a substantial addition to the south side of the building. And part of that was bringing that addition forward of the existing front elevation. And then the second component was the extension of the garage. Due to some circumstances with the client, the project has been broken down into 2 phases. The first phase is going to be the extension of the garage and some interior renovations to the basement, creating an accessory dwelling unit. And the second phase will be the substantial addition on the south side. The project was a larger bite to take than they had originally anticipated. As such, we submitted for building permit, and staff has flagged the fact that the original variance for the garage projection came from the proposed south addition. The proposal that we are going for is an 8-foot, 10-foot extension to the front of the garage. The variance requested was slightly less due to the fact that we were actually taking the dimension from the front of the addition. With the addition no longer being completed at this stage, the variance changes. The garage and design hasn't changed, and it is still in line with the garage immediately to the north of the property. But as a result, the quantitative number of the variance has changed. I understand staff is in support of this application, and I don't have any other further comments and open any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hood. Any questions, items of clarification of Mr. Smith at this time? I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and no hands showing.
Very well. Let's take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based upon my review of the owner's application, the site plans, building elevations, my site visit, together with the presentation by the owner's consultant and the planning staff's report, I am satisfied that the variances are minor in nature and conform to the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I put forth a motion that the application be, as applied for, be approved subject to the conditions that the addition be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan drawing revision number 4 dated March 24th, 2026, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Mr. Dickey, I think we missed one of the revisions. There's a revision number 8 dated March 27th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the site plan drawing, and then
the revision
elevation.
number 4 dated March 24th, 2026. March 27th for revision number 8 and March 24 for revision number 4. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved and none opposed.
Thank you very much. Have a great night. Thank you.
Good night. Application 070 of 2026 at 3020 Pine Glen Road. Again, that's application 70 of 2026 at 3020 Pine Glen Road. I have Glenn Char Associates here, Mr. Maurice Lochik. Good evening, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of committee, staff, and if there's any public in attendance. My name is Maurice Lukic, and I'm a planner with Glenn Schnarr and Associates, agent for Innovo Group, the owners of the site. The application before you tonight is for variances to specific parking rates for the property at 3020 Pine Glen Road. I'd note maybe before I go into the presentation, I've reviewed the town staff report and pleased with the positive staff recommendation and appreciate that. And I've also reviewed the conditions, and I have a small issue and request with just one item, which with your permission, Madam Chair and committee, I'd like to discuss just after my presentation. So before you guys go into, you're discussing the motion, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So next slide, please. So let's get everyone oriented in case not everyone's familiar. So this minor variance application is in the Palermo Village part of the town. So that's south of Dundas and along Bronte Road. And the subject site, as you can see on the slide, is the box outlined in red. The site is specifically located at the southeast corner of Pine Glen Road and Bronte. Surrounding uses, as you can see from this top-down view to the east, there's institutional uses, both immediately east and kind of kitty corner northeast along Old Bronte Road. To the south, there's existing townhouses, and further south, again, if you're familiar with the area, apartment development, including the Amica building, which is under construction right now. To the west, across Bronte Road, existing townhomes, and then to the north, across Pine Glen, you have apartment and mixed-use development going all the way up Old Bronte. And then, of course, facing Bronte Road, you actually have that Halton Paramedic facility. Next slide, please. So here's a zoomed in aerial of the site as it exists today. It's just showing that the subject lands are bound by, again, you can see Bronte, Pine Glen Road, and Calsa Gate on the east. And then, of course, that Calsa Gate turns into Old Bronte Road further north. And the site is currently vacant. Next slide, please. So these slides just give you, again, if you're not familiar with the site, just a bit of context. So this is a shot as you're standing on Pine Glen looking west towards Bronte Road. These shots were taken on a recent site visit. I think it's when the signs went in the ground, if I recall. And it just sort of, again, confirms the conditions of the site. Next slide, please. And again, this is standing on Calsa Gate and looking west, again, towards Bronte Road. And again, sort of confirms that it's a vacant site. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about the actual application and minor variances before you tonight. So we are requesting the approval of parking related variances as follows. Firstly, to permit a parking rate of 0.1 visitor parking space per residential unit, whereas the town bylaw rate requires parking of 0.2 visitor parking per unit. And the second variance is to prevent a parking rate of 1 space for every 60 meters squared of net floor area on the first story, whereas the bylaw requires 1 space for every 24 meters square net floor area. Now, the second variance is worded in a way to match kind of how the provisions in the bylaw work, but all that's saying is that that is going to be the parking rate applying for commercial gross floor area, which is being proposed in the building. So these variances apply to the subject site and not necessarily to a specific feature or element on a plan. So you've heard other items before you are always with a plan that's active. This is something a bit different tonight. So while I'm showing plans on the screen, which are the plans currently before the town, the intention is with committee's approval of the variances tonight, the client is actually going to be engaging the architect to prepare revised plans suitable to reactivate the site development plan process with town planning. So again, these variances are not specific to proposed plans that are about to be approved. It's more so to set the parameters for reinvigorating and starting up site design and building design again. I would note that in support of the parking variances, a parking justification study was also provided to the town staff for their review and approval. And this was actually done, our clients had taken the initiative to engage planning and specifically traffic staff for quite a while to make sure that what they were doing in terms of the work and the proxy and so how this variance application would be before you would be satisfactory to everybody. Next slide, please. I'll go through these quickly. You guys have had a long night, so so first slide here is this is sort of giving you a sense of the town's policy planning framework. This is from Livable Oakville's schedule showing the land uses, and the schedule shows that the lands are part of a growth area and within the built boundary. Next slide, please. So this is a slide of the Palermo Village land use schedule. And again, the lands are within an urban center designation. And the use permissions for an urban center include a wide range of like retail, service, commercial, office, residential uses, and permissions for mixed use buildings. And there's even standalone apartment buildings permitted in that sort of pink tone. Next slide, please. So this is the zoning that applies to the site. And again, if there's members of the public here and get confused between official plan and zoning bylaw, when it comes to the zoning bylaw, this is the as of right permissions that are allowed on the site. So today under the town zoning bylaw, the lands are zoned as urban core, and it specifically is called MU4 and then the SP 379. So that permits a wide range of uses, which I've got sort of at the bottom of the slides. That includes apartments, business offices, banks, medical office, restaurant, retail. similar uses to what you see as you go, let's call it further up Old Bronte Road, the kind of developments that are already there. Now, the special section, the 379 reference, gives additional regulations from the parent base MU4, which is like a mixed use zone. But those special exceptions are just for yard, landscape provisions, balcony projections, rooftop terraces. I'll call them ancillary matters. None of that is changing. So again, use permissions or setbacks, or again, some of these specific regulations are not being proposed or to be revised tonight. Next slide, please. So again, I won't talk about this a lot, but this just gives you a sense of some of the local transit service that's in the area. The red dot on each sort of map shows where the subject lands are in context to Proxima Transit. Next slide. And then this is showing future transit. So likely you've seen this before. This is from the town's transportation master plan, so giving you a sense of, the future state of transit. The subject site is very close to, can you see in the sort of the top left corner, the proposed Palermo terminal? So that's that little orange circle denoted there. At this scale, I couldn't even put a dot on the drawing, but we're very, very close to that orange circle. So we're just trying to convey that both existing and in the future state, our site is very close to transit infrastructure that is only going to be improving with time as part of the, the town's vision for the transportation master plan. Next slide, please. Again, you've had a long night, so I won't read all of this. Maybe I'll just really do a quick summary. So the variances will be supporting a development application that fulfills policies under the various regional and local official plan policies. And the intended layout for this project includes limits on surface parking, no parking between the building and the street, and no access to Bronte Road. So this is, again, going to be helpful in supporting part of that site plan exercise. With respect to bylaw considerations in the four tests, as I noted, a parking justification study has been provided, and it surveyed proxy sites which are immediately north of the subject lands on Old Bronte Road. One of them, if you're familiar with the area, is the Mint building, for example, which is about one property removed from Dundas Street on the west side. And again, they were chosen because they contextually, in terms of what they are, apartment development with retail at grade, and where they are located are, very similar to and would exhibit characteristics similar to what the proposed development for our site would exhibit as well. The study that I mentioned, for the parking and the proxy information confirms that requested parking rates provide parking matching demand for both the visitor and the retail parking in this Palermo Village area. And again, I would just point out that no other variances are being proposed at this time. Next slide, please. In my opinion, the application before you is minor. There's no changes proposed to the, the visible building that would result from these parking rates. The parking rates that we're requesting align with the proxy data that came as a result of the surveying of the properties on Old Bronte Road. The application is desirable and appropriate as it supports TDM measures, which encourages public transit use, of course, providing adequate parking as illustrated from the proxy surveys as well. Next slide, please. So this concludes my presentation. Of course, happy to take questions, whether it's from committee members or the public. But as I noted, I would like the opportunity after questions to just speak very quickly to one small matter of a condition. Thank you.
You can go ahead and speak to it now. Yeah.
Okay, sure, simply. So I'll just start with saying that we have no concern with the, let's call it the formal recommendation that's in the staff report and the conditions specific to a final approved site plan. No concern with that. So the staff comments have a note on that second last page of all the, what I'll call your town standard conditions that apply. And I would like to ask committee's approval to modify the last bullet only. So the last bullet is the one on the timeline. I would ask tonight for a 3-year time frame instead of the proposed 2-year time frame. Bear with me for a minute and let me explain why. So unlike other applications, and you've even heard in all of the ones before that are specific to live, in place site plans with, maybe even concurrent permits, these variances are a little bit different. So these, we're not pursuing a setback or coverage item on a site plan like that as a specific site plan. Our client's site plan application has been on pause with the town to resolve these parking matters and to kind of set visitor and the commercial GFA parking rates that match truly what is, demand as we know from those proxy sites. So the additional time that we're asking for is required to complete the necessary, let's call it internal and town-facing approvals. So if approved tonight, and we are hoping this will be approved, the client is going to be engaging the architect right away to reactivate the site development plans. And once that's done and the owners can do the typical aligning plans with, market conditions, the usual, then the fulsome consulting team comes on board and will be engaged to provide a complete set of plans for town review and approval. So with this extra first step, which is client and architect sort of, starting up the site plans again and considering all the things that they need to do, that's where you need the extra time. You can appreciate that part of this is a little self-serving in that I just don't want to have to come back again with a positive decision tonight to come back to you requesting another variance application if for the only reason that we just ran out of a little bit of time. Could we do this in 2 years? It's possible, but there's a lot to do. So we'd rather be safe and ask for 3. And again, it would just make the process, give it enough time with all of this front end lead design time that needs to happen. Then again, they've got to get into the town site plan process, and then you're going to get into permitting. So 3 years would work much better than the proposed 2. I hope you guys find this a small and reasonable request in this circumstance. So that's it. I'll conclude with that. Thank you for considering that.
Thank you, Mr. Luchik. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary?
We've had no calls and no hands in the audience.
Okay, very well. Questions, Mr. Tulowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you indicated you're just about to start the site plan review process?
Apologies if that's the way it came across. No, the applicant has been in for the site plan process for quite some time, but they put it on pause. It's market uncertainty. It's a lot of things going on right now. And before they wanted to restart the site plan process, they just wanted to set these parking rates, and that will be part of, think of that as ingredients in the hopper to reset, particularly, the underground parking levels as it matches the proposed residential units above. So it's been through a fulsome round and review of comments, and that's actually, I believe, and I know Rob is here as well. He could comment on it from town planning, but I believe it was through the zoning examiner's flag of how parking was being shown on those existing on plans in the site plan process. That's what triggered the wait. You can't, the way it was being shown, it had to be sort of better represented through distinct variances for 2 different parking rates for the visitor and the commercial retail. So again, it will be reviving that site plan file with new drawings and just continuing and wrapping it up for approval. Hope that explains it.
Your view, all major items have been resolved and you would anticipate getting site plan approval rather quickly?
That would be the hope.
I know it's the impossible question to ask, when are you going to get your approval? I'm actually going the opposite way. I'm just going to ask you the blunt question. Do you think you can get a building permit within 3 years? Like that, well, in the current market and it's high rise, it's maybe you need 4.
So I've spoken to the client about that, and again, their feeling is they can get this done in the 3. Agreed. There's volatility right now, but at the same time, if I think about this client and other clients that I work with, not just in Oakville, but in the broader GTHA, maybe there's a feeling that things are bottoming out. And that's not to say they're on the way up, but at least it's not going to get worse. There's few signs that maybe some of the higher density market is only is there's nothing worse coming. But again, that's just anecdotal from what we hear from clients, developers and builders. But 3 years, we believe, would suffice. If committee believes that to be generous and to make it 4, so be it. I would not object to that. I'm sure the owner would be like, well, we don't want to be burning up time for 4 years, renting a space for the model home. We'd like to get it done sooner, but appreciate the comments in that regard.
Thank you. And maybe I could just ask Mr. Thun, there was no second condition listed here, but I believe there should be some form of time frame. And I would agree with the applicant that a 2-year time frame with a high rise in the current environment is probably not enough. Is the town supportive of 3 or more years for a condition?
Just through you, Madam Chair, just to answer Mr. Chalowski's question related to time frame, the original condition that I put in there tied it to final site plan approval. Final site plan approval typically has a 2-year get a building permit type of time frame. We're looking at the ability now maybe to change that to a 3-year. So the intent wasn't to put that specific condition in because it's tied into the final site plan approval and the way we're thinking about going for the future. However, if Mr. Lucic and his client wants a 3-year time frame, I have no problem with that.
So it's essentially the time frame tied to the site plan approval allows you that flexibility, whether it takes 2 years or 3 years, right? If the second condition is not even put in there.
It would provide you the further flexibility. However, I think Mr. Lucic's client would like to see something a little more definitive as a condition. Okay. He has approached me on that, and that's the rationale behind it. I think it's covered by number 1, but if they want specificity to a time frame, 3 years. The only caution I have on that, if there's a disconnect between final site plan approval and the committee's condition with 3 years, there may be the potential of having to come back. And that was part of the reason why we didn't put it in the first place.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Chalowski.
Madam Chair, I'm thinking tying it to site plan runs afoul of the discussion we had at the recent meeting with respect to a previous decision on Burloak Drive, where it was tied to an event, not a time frame.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to my put out for consideration. Mr. Thun said they're looking at extending site plan to 3 years. Reasonably, having been there, Mr. Lucic may need the next year to get a site plan approval. So I think tying it to site plan and site plan regulations, but giving it a firm date, as we discussed, I think a 4-year time frame would probably be a reasonable one to put on as a condition that the approval expires if the building permit has an issue in 4 years.
I'm fine with that. Is there a discussion? Mr. Dickey?
I'm fine with the that type of a condition. I have a few questions on other issues.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Dickey. We haven't gone to the approval stage yet, or motion stage yet, so go ahead.
Yeah. The concept of shared parking, I'm the concept of shared parking, I shall we say, I agree with that. I don't question that aspect. What I might ask either the planner or the agent, are there other examples? Maybe one question would be, are there other examples of shared parking in high density areas in Oakville? And the other question might be, if so, or in relative, whether there is or not, are there instances in other high density areas in Oakville where the parking requirement for visitors and the parking requirement for commercial has been reduced? Like I say, because they're in high density areas where there'll be a greater expectation that people will be walking to these facilities, and visitors, well, I don't know about visitors, but definitely for the commercial. So does either of you know if there's other examples in Oakville?
Maybe I'll let Rob speak to sort of broader general townwide, but the site that was actually one of the two sites that was actually picked for the proxy data, so that's the Mint building, it actually had been before the Committee of Adjustment to reduce the visitor rate to 0.15.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there you have an example of, that's a mixed use building with retail at grade, and they have sort of a, you know, a commingling of supply. And again, I'm sure you see applications before you all the time where you know, the rationale works because of course of different peaks, where for the purposes of site plan and the bylaw, we will have defined parking for each kind of use.
Well, no, I realize that. So yeah, I hate to interrupt you. I'm okay with that whole concept. That's I was just curious if that's been practiced, shall we say, in other parts of town, and I'm just thinking, either in the Palermo node or the node north of Trafalgar and Dundas, I guess is the other node, brand new node. I was just curious.
Well, Mint is right there. It's in the same
through
area.
you, Madam Chair, the two proxy sites that are in the parking justification study, 2430 Old Bronny Road and 2490 Old Bronny Road, are just up the road from the site. Okay, so they do have the combination of the visitor and the retail together combined.
Okay.
And that is one of the things that the transportation engineer, when they reviews the parking justification, looks for. Similar proxy sites of what you're proposing.
But it was just mentioned, and correct me, that I don't know which property it was, one of the proxy sites has a reduced visitor parking of 0.15. Here we're asking for 0.1 spaces per per apartment, it is, which is substantially less. So that's why I was trying to see, is that justified because we're talking shared parking on our subject property, whereas the one that has the 0.15 doesn't have shared commercial visitors. They're separate components to the parking lot. That's what I wasn't clear on.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, if you were to go to page 7 of 13 of the parking justification, the visitor and the retail are together. The visitor is 0.11 visitor parking spaces per dwelling plus 7 retail for 2430 Old Bronny Road. And then the other one is 0.10 visitor spaces per dwelling and 0 retail. So they are combined. It goes to Mr. Lucas's comment regarding peak period, the timing of those. And keep in mind, we're in a growth area. So we're looking for less car dependency, more emphasis on walking, cycling, transit, and all those other types of modes of transportation other than the car. And the transportation engineer felt this was appropriate. And that's why the recommendation was put forward.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? I see none. So who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Excuse me. Taking into account my site visit, the applicant's submissions and presentation, and the comments from the town staff, I find the variance to be minor in nature and is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is desirable for the appropriate development of the land. The proposed development maintains and protects the character of the existing neighborhood and does not present unacceptable adverse impacts. I also note that there's no letters of opposition. The parking justification study, together with the comments from the transportation engineering staff, demonstrate the proposed reduced parking rates are appropriate and sufficient to accommodate the site's anticipated parking demand. In conclusion, I believe the 4 tests of the Planning Act have been met, and I recommend the application be approved subject to the following conditions: that the development be constructed in general accordance with the final approved site plan to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning and Development, and that the approval expires 4 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Price. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. None opposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee. And a shout out to town planning and C of A staff for support tonight as well. Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You too.
Okay. Application 071 of 2027 at 1143 Chapelton Place. Again, that's application 71 of 2026 at 1143 Chapelton Place.
Yes, hello, good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Chair and committee members, good evening. My name is Mazhar Raja and I'm representing this application as agent. My office address is 8250 Lawson Road, Milton, Ontario. Yes, Ms. Chair, we have proposed a below grade entrance in the entrance in the exterior side yard, which will be the main principal entrance for the second unit dwelling in the basement. This below grade entrance structure is encroaching the exterior side yard by 1.14 meters. The required flankage is 3.5 meters, but with this entrance, it's gonna be 2.6 meters. A variance of 1.14 meter is requested. This variance is really minor, and this meets all the tests. It is according to the general intent of the official bylaws and the zoning bylaws, official plan and the zoning bylaws. Staff do not have any objection on this. I request you to approve this variance so that we can have approval of second unit dwelling in the basement successfully. Thank you very much. I'm open to answer any question if you have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Raja. Who would, does anyone have any questions, items of clarification? Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and no hands in the audience.
Okay, very well. Let's have a motion. Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move that this application be approved as applied for, finding that it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I do not believe there'll be any impacts from this variance. Given the stairs are located in a flankage yard, there is still plenty of room to access the rear yard on that side of the property. I would also note that there is no community opposition. I would make that approval subject to 2 conditions: that the uncovered access stairwell below grade be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan dated March 18th, 2026, and that the approval expires 2 years from the decision if the building permit hasn't been issued.
Thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Seeing none, all those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. Okay, yes, I see your hand, Ms. Price. I was hesitant for a second. Your application has been approved, none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Good night. Application 72 of 2026 at 343 Douglas Avenue. Again, that's application 72 of 2026 at 343 Douglas Avenue. I have Mr. Michael Barton as the agent, and I do have a letter of opposition from Miss Nancy Dubois.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead,
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Barton.
So my name is Michael Barton. I'm the agent and the applicant on this application. The proposal is for demolition of the existing two-story dwelling and construction of a new two-story dwelling. The front wall will be aligning with the front walls of the adjacent dwellings to the north and south, seeking to provide consistency of transition to the public realm. The garage is integrated into the ground floor, so the intent has been to not have the garage projecting from the front of the structure. I've provided in my planning justification report photos of a number of the homes in this area. So there's 16 figures showing the built form design and character of this neighborhood, and the intent is being to design a dwelling that fits in with that character. It incorporates appropriate massing and scale relative to those nearby properties, and that massing and scale is mitigated by compliance with all the required setbacks, maximum floor area ratio, maximum building height. There's also articulated built form shown in the design. Again, while we're seeking a variance related only to lot coverage, the front porch and rear projections are contributing to that lot coverage, but they're ground floor level only and not contributing to the overall building mass. The dwelling has been designed with considerable variation on both the ground and second floor, and including the second floor into the roof line. As I mentioned, we're seeking only one variance, the lot coverage 26.47%. There's a considerable amount of landscape that's going to be provided on this property. So the rear yard in particular that's proposed will be 15.01 meters, which greatly exceeds the minimum requirement. We're also providing side yards that exceed the minimum requirements and a front yard that exceeds the minimum requirement. There are boundary trees along the west property line that go basically along the entire property line that provide screening and buffering. Those are going to be fully maintained. There's no change to those through the proposal, and there'll be no impact to the street trees either. There is only one tree within the interior of the site towards the rear that's proposed to be removed, and we would be working with staff through the site alteration permit process with respect to a replacement tree. The lot coverage is consistent with what we see for other approvals in the immediate surrounding area, including up to 27.76%. In terms of the letter from the neighboring, well, not neighboring landowner, from the member of the community at 328 Douglas. So that's on the opposite side of the street and up of about 4 lots. So there's a note that this is going to represent a precedent in the neighborhood. Again, this is a neighborhood we've already seen these higher values approved for lot coverage, and in many cases, those were combined with other variances for floor area, for example, or reductions to side yards. So in this case, there are no other variances that are being requested that would be contributing to that idea of overbuilding on the property. We have, as I mentioned, all the trees along the boundary of the property and the street are being maintained with only the one being removed. So again, we're not seeing significant removal of trees to this proposal. And there's going to be a large amount of open space provided to that large rear yard setback. and side and front yard setbacks exceeding the requirements. So I've reviewed the staff report and accept the conditions that are recommended and agree with staff that the 4 tests are satisfied and the proposal is compatible with the area. I acknowledge the requirement for site alteration, so that will address any concerns related to drainage, grading, and trees. So my opinion is that the 4 tests are met. I provided detailed analysis in my justification report, but in general, with respect to the official plan, the proposal is going to preserve, enhance, and protect the neighborhood character. The dwelling's been designed to meet and exceed all setback requirements that are providing appropriate transition to the neighboring dwellings in the public realm. We're not seeking any other variances in conjunction with the lot coverage that would generally result in massing, scale, and impact concerns. In terms of the zoning bylaw, the intent of regulating the lot coverage is really to make sure that there's an appropriate amount of landscaped open space provided with spatial buffering and separation. Again, as I've mentioned, we're providing a large rear yard setback that significantly exceeds the minimum requirement and also exceeding the other setback requirements. The proposed dwelling is incorporating a number of design elements that help to taper and scale the size of the dwelling. And again, we're not combining this lot coverage with any other variances. In terms of minor, my opinion is that the requested relief is not going to adversely impact the character of the neighborhood or result in scale and massing that would adversely impact the public realm or neighboring properties. And it's consistent with other approvals in the neighborhood. And then finally, this variance is appropriate for development of this property. It's going to enhance the character of the property in a manner that's compatible with the neighborhood and adjacent uses. We're seeing an increase that's appropriate and consistent with other approvals in the neighborhood and mitigated through design features and overall scaling and mass that is appropriate for the neighborhood character. So with that, I'd welcome any questions of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Any questions or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Has Ms. Dubois raised their hand to speak to the matter, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, I do not see her in the audience, nor have we had any phone calls. Thank you.
Okay, very well. Let's have a motion. Go ahead, Ms. Price. You are muted.
Sorry. Taking into account my site visit, the applicant's submissions and presentation, the comments from the town staff and the 1 letter of opposition, I find the variance to be minor in nature and is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw and is desirable for the appropriate development of the land. The proposed development maintains and protects the character of the existing neighborhood and does not present unacceptable adverse impacts. I also note there was 1 letter of opposition. The variety of material and articulation and roof height variability have helped minimize the massing and scale of the proposed dwelling. In conclusion, I believe the 4 tests of the Planning Act have been met, and I recommend the application be approved subject to the following conditions. That the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated March 27th, 2026, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued with the proposed construction.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you. Good evening.
Have a good evening. Application 73 of 2026, 236 Watson Avenue. Again, that's application 073 of 2026 at 236 Watson Avenue. I have Mr. Rick Metalden as the agent.
Yes, can you hear me? This is Rick Metelgen from SMDA Architects Limited in Oakville.
Go ahead, Mr. Metelgen.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Rick Metelgen from SMDA Architects Limited in Oakville. Our address is 482 South Service Road East, Suite 118. And I am here this evening on behalf of our clients at 236 Watson Avenue in Oakville. Oh, I see there's a bunch of yellow dots on there. If I could ask you to zoom in a little bit on that, it might make it clearer. We're before you this evening in regard to a proposed addition. You can see where the location of the addition is by the hatched area. Thank you. By the hatched areas on the site plan there. So what you're seeing is Watson Avenue on the right hand side of the drawing. The rear yard of our client's property is on the left, and you can see that we're proposing one small addition that's at the front of the property, a larger addition that's on the south side toward the rear, and then at the very back behind the swimming pool there's an existing shed building, and we're proposing to convert that to a cabana. And to make that happen, we're doing a small addition to the shed. You can see that dark hatched area there, and then a cabana roof that comes forward from that going toward the pool. So this is an existing building. It's approximately 20 years old. We've designed these additions and some modifications to the roof, very much in keeping with the character of the existing building. The impact of the additions from the street will actually be very minimal, and certainly, as I indicated, keeping with the existing character and siding conditions and windows and so on. Very little is changing from that standpoint. I'm here this evening to ask for one variance in regard to lot coverage. The zoning bylaw in this case allows 19%, and we're asking for 26% coverage. Of that 26%, I'll point out that 3.9% is composed of porches: the small front porch, existing rear porch, and the proposed porch that we're putting, or deck or covering feature that we're putting onto that cabana. So taking all of those things together, the fact that the appearance of the building is not being changed significantly, and the fact that so much of the variance that we're asking for is porches, we believe that the variances are minor in nature, or the variance is minor in nature, meets the 4 tests. We note that staff are in support and that there's no concerns from the community, and would ask for your support and be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Metelgen. Are there any questions or items of clarification? I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and nobody in the audience with their hands up.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based upon my review of the owner's application, the site plans and building elevations, my site visit, the presentation by the owner's consultant, and the planning staff report, I'm satisfied that the variance is minor in nature and conforms to the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I put forth a motion that the application is applied for be approved, subject to the conditions that the accessory building and additions to the existing detached building be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings of revision number 4, dated February 27th, 2026, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Here, the application has been approved and none opposed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, application 074 of 2026 at 473 Bellwood Avenue. Again, that's application 74 of 2026 at 473 Bellwood Avenue. Mr. Timothy Baduk here as the agent, and I note we have 10 letters of support. Oh, Mr. Wilmot.
Good evening, good evening, Madam Chair.
You
John
did a changeover on me.
Yes, I've been doing that lately too. Good evening, Madam Chair and the committee. My name is John Wilmot with Wilmot and Strickland. Our address is 594 Chartwell Road, Suite 3, Oakville, and we're representing the owners of 473 Bellwood Avenue. The project before you involves the demolition of the existing dwelling and construction of a new two-story home. The supporting documentation we submitted outlines our justification for the 3 variances required and how the proposal is consistent with the official plan and livable Oakville, maintains the neighborhood character and meets the 4 tests. I see you've got my first figure up. Thank you. I just wanted to point out that we have received, I counted 9 letters of support, so maybe one came in afterwards, but you can see our clients have approached all the neighbors and with success. We're not aware of any opposition to the proposal. You go to figure 2, please. An image of the house. The property is zoned RL 3.0 under the zoning bylaw and is within an established low-density residential neighborhood where many homes have been rebuilt or substantially renovated over the past 25 years. The application requests 3 variances. One is the residential floor area, 46.8%, where 41 is permitted. The garage area, 56.94, where 45 meters is permitted. And front yard setback of 7.7, where 8.96 is required. As a bit of background, we held a pre-consultation meeting with staff on March 11th of this year. The design was generally well received and staff recommended reducing the floor area and reviewing the front facade composition to align with livable Oakville. In response, we did revise the design, including a 1% reduction in the floor area and scaling back of the chimney feature on the front facade. The chimney or similar architectural features can be found on the front or flankage elevations in a lot of the neighborhood houses, both original and redeveloped houses. Just to talk about variance number 1, so the modest increase in floor area supports a functional family home with 4 bedrooms with conventional living spaces. The rooms remain modest in size. The design minimizes perceived massing through the gable roof forms and a setback central roof element that has a dormer in it to break up the facade. The proposal respects the maximum height and provides side yard setbacks that exceed minimums, except for minor pinch points, which are right at the required setback. And that's primarily due to the parallelogram shape of the lot. In variance 2, the garage area, the additional garage area is not really visible from the street. It appears like a 2-story conventional garage, as you see from the image. The additional garage area is some storage and a workspace to the rear, located behind the parking spaces. And so I submit there's no adverse impact on the streetscape of this increased area. Town staff have also indicated at the pre-consultation meeting that they commonly support this type of increase. They don't oppose that. We go to figure 3, the setback detail. This might be the most complicated variance. And as you can see that the reduced front yard setback is requested primarily to avoid encroaching into the tree protection zone at the rear. That's not on this figure, but there is a private tree that we've tried to avoid injury. So we'd like to push the house forward just a little bit. Under the zoning, the setback is actually measured
to the porch line that is 0.6 meters back from the edge or the overhang. So there's a curved overhang, and there's a dimension there. It's basically sort of the tangent of the furthermost point. That's where the actual setback is taken from. You can see that the main wall projects just 0.43 meters beyond what the allowable is, and the chimney feature projects a little bit in front of that. And I also like to point out that the main wall of the living room feature and where the fireplace is located is in line with what the potential front yard setback would be of the neighboring property if it was developed, and given the trend that's a likelihood. The garage also is set back to the required setback, so you can see that on the diagram as well. Anyway, just wanted to quickly talk, if we can go back to the rendering, figure 2. And you can see just behind the tree in the image that the staff had a question about that chimney feature and about its massing. We have reduced the height by 2 feet and the depth of it another 6 inches just to lessen that impact. Staff supported that, so they were pleased with it, I believe. And the overall design of the house proposes compatible materials and forms and reflects an established pattern of ongoing reinvestment on Bellwood Avenue. So for these reasons, I believe the variances are minor. They're desirable for the appropriate development of the land and maintain the intent and purpose of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw, hence meeting the 4 tests. So we respectfully request the committee approve the application, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wilmot. Any questions, items of clarification? I see none. Given the letters of support, has anyone called with anyone with any concerns or interest to speak to the application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and no showing hands in the audience.
Okay, thank you. We'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Madam Chair, I'll be pleased to move approval of this application as applied for, finding that it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I believe any potential impact of the variances will be mitigated by a very appropriate design on this dwelling. I would also note a very impressive level of support from the community with 10 letters. I would make that approval subject to 2 conditions: that 2-story dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the site plan and elevation drawings dated March 27th, 2026, and that the approval expires in 2 years if a building permit is not issued.
Thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Application 075 of 2026 at 1067 Truman Avenue. Again, that's application 75 of 2026 at 1067 Truman Avenue. I've got Mr. Ventura here as the agent.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Daniel Ventura, and I'm here today on behalf of the owner of the 1067 Truman Avenue in support of this minor variance application. First, I'd like to thank the committee for the time and consideration, and also I'd like to highlight the city staff who provided positive and constructive recommendations during the pre-consultation meeting. This allowed us to refine the design and better align planning objectives before coming here to the next slide, please. So that's just showing the existing household that has a garage in the front area of the house. I just put this in the slide to show the existing. Next slide, please. So the intention of this is just to create a new room on the second floor of the garage. So for that, once we submitted the plans for the approval of permit, so it triggered 3 conditions that was not in compliance with the zoning. So I'm gonna pass through the 3 variances that you are asking for. Next slide, please. So the first one is the garage. Once you were developing the design for the second floor, instead of having these joists and a cantilever, we just created a new wall, and didn't make sense that area was be there empty. So automatically that garage increased the area of 2.91 square meters, and the garage originally had already the 45 square meter that is permitted by the bylaw. So it created this first variance that we are asking for to be accepted. Next slide, please. So the second variance that we're asking is that regarding the projection, that in the bylaw of today, as soon as as everybody knows, as soon as you do a development in an existing house, you need to comply with the new bylaws. And now the bylaw exiges 1.5 meter only, and this garage was away beyond a little bit, 10 meters, before the code implement this 1.5 limitation. That's the second request, that we are not really extending the existing garage, but it's not in compliance already with the preview permits when it was built. Of course, there is a little bit of extension. I have maybe half a meter. And the third, next slide, please. The third variance that you are asking for to be accepted is the floor area ratio that it's extending from the maximum allowed is 35, and we are asking to be accepted at 38.67. So these are the 3 minor variants that, in our opinion, is requested to satisfy all the 4 requirements and tests under the Planning Act. And we respectfully request the committee to support and approve the application. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ventura. Any questions or items of clarifications at this time? I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We've had no calls and no hands in the audience.
Okay, and we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Taking into account my site visit, the applicant's submissions and presentation, and the comments from the town staff, I find the variance to be minor in nature and is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is desirable for the appropriate development of the land. The proposed development maintains and protects the character of the existing neighborhood and does not present unacceptable adverse impacts. I note there is no letters of opposition or support. In conclusion, I believe the 4 tests of the Planning Act have been met and recommend the application be approved subject to the following condition. that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan dated April 12th, 2026, north and west elevation drawings dated February 8th, 2026, and south elevation drawings dated December 9th, 2025. And second, that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Okay, thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Seeing none, all those in support? Okay, the application has been approved and none opposed. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night too.
Okay, we have minutes to confirm for April the 29th. Ms. Price, thank you. And motion to adjourn. Ms. Price, thank you. At 9:41.